So now let's talk about web interaction channels, and we've previously created a web support process. And as a reminder, support process controls which status selections are available on a case. And so we notice we have the default selections of new and also working, escalated, and closed. If we wanted to add additional status options to this pick list for the case status for web cases, we could do that in the status field. And so let me go into Object Manager and let's select case, and then we'll select fields and relationships. Now you'll notice under status is here that we can add additional status pick list values. So let's go ahead and add one called submitted. And you notice we have our different support processes selected here. Now we're going to select the submitted status designation for the web support process only and click Save. Now you might be wondering, well, what would be a web interaction channel? And so one example of that is web to case. So if I go into setup and let's search for the term web, and you notice we have options for web to lead and then web to case, and there's also web to case HTML generator. So if we select web to case under service and click on that, that brings up the web to case settings. And so what you can do is you can embed a form on a website, and then when users submit that form, it automatically creates a case in Salesforce. And so some of the settings with web to case are you want to make sure that web to case is enabled via this checkbox, and then you can set the default case origin to web. You can also have a default response template, and we've got support case created web inquiries as the template, and then you can add an email signature as well, but we're going to leave all this the defaults and click Save. So that's the settings for web to case, but now we want to create the code for a web to case form. And so for example, we can capture case information for your website, and we can select which fields we want to show in the form. Some of those options and the ones by default here in this example would be contact name, email address, phone, subject, and description. And then as well, you can enter a URL for the user to be returned to. And so I'm going to return users that submit this form to my website, which is myquealermedia.com. And I'm not going to enable spam filtering, even though it is recommended. If I do enable it, then it will force the user to enter in a reCAPTCHA key. Let me go ahead and generate it with the spam filter, so I'll show you what that looks like as well. But I'm not going to enable that because that requires an API key, and I've not set all that up. But the main thing to bear in mind is a reCAPTCHA is where you've got to enter in some text from a graphic just to verify that you're a human and not a machine. This helps prevent people from spamming your web form. So I'm going to click Generate. And so now Salesforce generates the code for your web to case form. And so I'm going to copy all of this. And then I'm going to go in and create a post in my own website to create this form. It's not going to be available for you to hit because I'm going to take it back down after I'm done recording. So I've copied my web to case HTML code, and I've gone into my website. And I use WordPress for my website, which I've thought about creating courses on WordPress. So if you have any interest at all in me teaching you how to do WordPress and create websites like a WordPress guru, just let me know in the comments of this particular lecture or video, wherever you may be watching it. But I digress. Let me continue on now with this sample form, and I'm entering in the title here. And if you don't have a WordPress website, don't worry about following along or signing up for an account or anything. I'm just trying to show you how this form will look once we embed this in a website. So I'm in the text portion of my WYSIWYG editor rather than the visual, it's the text. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the text that I copied over from this tab, which is this form that we generated from the web to case HTML generator. And so we paste that in. So I'm going to click Publish to make this visible. It's now live on my website. If I click View Post, you'll see what this looks like. Here's my sample form. And so as you can tell, this is not a good looking form at all. It's got the field names, and the fields here are not formatted at all. Now, you can adjust the code and add CSS for styling, but this is just the real quick run through of a web to case form. And so don't get caught up on the particular look of this, but how this works and how this is powerful is I'm going to enter in, let's enter in Stella Pavlova. And let me copy her email address here. This is fake email address in the free developer accounts. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter in the subject. And so this should, if this works correctly, this should create a new case in my own Salesforce org with this as the subject and this is the description in the case. And it should connect with my contact in my org for Stella Pavlova. So I'm going to click submit, and then the redirect, if you remember, we set the redirect to go to my website. So this is my home page of my website, and there I am. So if I go back to the web to case settings, so it was here that I specified the return URL of my website. So now let me go back into this tab. Let me click on Stella Pavlova's contact record, and we see now that we've got the new case here, and this is case 1027, and it looks like it worked somewhat. Now the subject and the description did not pull in correctly. Let me switch to Salesforce Classic. So it may have not associated with Stella, but it looks like it did. Okay, so I'm in Classic on Stella Pavlova, and we see case 1028. And it did pull in the subject, and I think it pulled in the description as well. 1028, and then the subject is here, description is here. So let me go back to Lightning Experience to see if it is working there or not. So I was looking at 1027, but we've got 1028, which is here. Okay, so I actually noticed it has 6 cases now, so I had to just refresh Stella's contact record for it to display. It just wasn't displaying, and this one I created a little bit earlier, so I thought this was the one that came in via the web to case form. It was not. It was this 1028 that was. And you see here it's got the subject and description that we entered in as well. So let me view that in Lightning. So the web to case is working in Lightning in the console as well. That's good to know. And as you can see, we entered in this case, and it went from the website into our Salesforce instance. And this is a way that you can generate HTML, and it creates a form that users can enter in, and it'll create a case automatically in Salesforce. Now, other types of web interaction channels or things that people can do online to log cases or to interact with service agents would have to do with the chat interaction channel known as Live Agent. We're going to be getting into Live Agent in the upcoming lecture, so stay tuned as we dive into the chat interaction channel and Live Agent.